Hi, welcome to Living Clean Podcast, the show to help you feel good again. I'm your host, Bonnie Wilderson Hayes. I'm a speaker, certified holistic nutritionist, and founder of Living Clean's healthy lifestyle transformation and nutrition programs. Each week, we will destroy myths and share the truth about the food you are buying and consuming, and provide insight into the best food programs to avoid slowing you down. My purpose is to help you enjoy food again and finally achieve the results that you want. I believe that everyone deserves to enjoy mouth-watering, good-for-you food that doesn't send you running for relief. Now, let's get started. Hey everyone, it's Bonnie. This week we're going to talk about vacation and travel, whether you're traveling for pleasure, whether you're traveling for business, whether you're out exploring jungles all over the world and backpacking it. What are some strategies that you can use to minimize reactions or eliminate them completely and not have to stress the whole time that you're gone? You want to be able to travel, do what you need to do if you're at work, and not think about what you're going to eat, where you're going to eat. You want to have all that set before you have to think about it. If you're on vacation, I don't know about you guys, but when I go on vacation, I go hog wild. I want to eat what the locals eat. I want to check out different, adult beverages and just really embrace and immerse myself into that culture. We just got back from New York, so this seemed like the perfect time to share some of my travel tips, especially they're fresh in my mind. New York is one of those places that I want to try the foods that I don't normally have because of my sensitivities. And ironically enough, I got out there and I was able to try different things. I even had, part of a Philly cheesesteak. And my husband and I had the Pat and Gino's cheesesteak challenge. And go Team Pat, he is on my team. I love it. And in doing so, I had to prep for that. I had to make sure that I wasn't going to destroy the last couple of days of my trip. And that's kind of what sparked this episode in particular, is that, plus a conversation with a friend who travels for work and ends up in very remote regions. And she has a pretty strong gluten allergy. She's not celiac, but she does have a strong reaction to gluten. And really, the only things that are in these remote areas are fast food or some of the local cafes and delis, which basically is like eating fast food. So she was asking what she could do and how she could eat. And, in the remote areas, really, the best strategy I can tell you is to pack a lot of food for yourself. The airlines actually work with us a lot now, and you are able to pack your own food to some extent. You can pack it in a cooler, and I don't mean one of the hard case coolers. I am talking about one of the soft sides. You can have things frozen. One of the things that I usually tell people is whatever you're bringing with you, freeze it. So when I go to San Diego, for instance, I like to bring my best friend Rudy's. It's one of the best brisket kind of places around here in Texas. I realize it comes out of a gas station. My East Coast mindset is going, oh my God, I can't believe I just bought gas station food. But they smoke it. They have a complete process, and she loves it. It's a good indulgence for me. I freeze it completely, and then I get on the plane. And by the time I make it out there, it's maybe half frozen. So whatever you freeze, you have to make sure that you're going to eat within 3 days of being on your trip. Now, in remote regions, if you're going to be gone for 5 days, that's not really a strategy that's going to work. So you're going to have to bring snacks and things that you can have on hand for the duration of your trip. So different bars, granola mixes, see if there's a grocery store nearby or maybe a farmer's market. Or here is one avenue that I know a lot of people haven't thought about. There are actually companies that will ship you pre-made meals. If they will ship to your house, they will ship to a hotel, and then your meals will be waiting for you. So you don't have to take anything online or on the plane. You don't have to worry about whether it's going to make it through security, if it's going to be frozen when you get there, if it's not going to be right. Most hotels have a small little refrigerator. And if you're only going to be there a couple of days, you can ship the meals there. You can have the box waiting for you when you get there. And then you just take the meals and you put them in your refrigerator. Heating them up, if you go down to the front desk, I know this sounds really kind of weird, but if you have a hotel room that does not have a microwave, if you go to the front desk and the front desk is not busy, many times they will heat it up for you, especially if you're in a remote area. They understand that there's not much there. You don't have a lot of choices. So they're going to really bend over backwards to help you 9 times out of 10. People are kind and they're genuinely friendly and they just want to help. There's a very rare few that you get that are having a crappy day or, they're just in a really shitty mood. And, those people you just kind of have to go, okay, whatever. But 9 times out of 10, like I said, people just want to help. So if you're in a remote area, you don't have a lot of food, the suggestions I have for you are to either bring your own food, have some shipped in and waiting for you, or hit the grocery stores when you get there. For those of you with gluten allergies, especially celiacs, there are very few fast food places you can go to where you know that they are 100% gluten-free. From my last calculations, and keep in mind I started looking and I just gave up. I decided it wasn't worth it, and as far as I'm concerned, I love my clients too much. I'm not going to track down the fast food place that does the gluten-free. I'm sure there's listings online that will give those to you, but I'm just no longer going to look for it, because when I have found things that say they're gluten-free, clients eat there thinking, okay, this is a possibility, and then come to find out it's not. So I don't recommend eating fast food if you have a gluten sensitivity. That's just asking for trouble, especially if you are suffering with celiac. All right, so now that we got the remote areas out of the way, what about if you go to big cities or you're traveling internationally and you're traveling for pleasure? You want to go and enjoy stuff, whether you're going and being a tourist or you're going and you're embracing and just immersing yourself into that culture and trying to do as locals do. You don't want to think about what your food is coming from. You don't want to think about what your next meal is or where you're going to get it. And what if you're on this side of town and you have to go to that side of town? You don't want to think about that. So here's how I structure mine, okay? I bring bars with me, and my bars are my backup. Before I go somewhere, I do a little research, especially if it's somewhere that I haven't been. New York, I've been to a lot. And, New York is one of those cities that there's something for everyone on just about every block in that city. And I know Little Italy is really keen on you have to make Italian food a certain way, but they are bend over backwards for you service providers. No question. I have never had a bad meal. I've never had anyone say anything negative. They've all been just so kind and more concerned about whether I enjoy my experience and my food than whether their food is prepared with all the ingredients they want to see in it. They want to make sure that I'm happy. And, it's actually a relatively easy city to visit as an outsider, as a tourist, when you have food sensitivities and allergies and, specific conditions that can really hurt you. Now, that being said, there's definitely some strategies to this. So I always do a little bit of research in advance, find out what kind of little cafes are all over the place, coffee shops, things like that, that will give you, little fruit cups, or if you can eat yogurt and fruit, things like that. Healthy options, juice places. That was one of the things when we were in New York. Every day I had a bottle of cold pressed fresh juices. Now, difference between juicing and blending, and everyone knows I am more of a fan of blending than I am the juicing, because you get all the micronutrients for the juicing, but you also get the sugar. Now, going on vacation with me means walking and moving for at least 12 miles a day. And if you do not believe me, my husband wore his watch. I will happily post up a picture of our steps for the week that we were gone. I can be pretty brutal to travel with. So, a little bit of the added sugar from juicing is okay in those situations. Now, in addition to juicing, so that gives us our micronutrients. So you got this infusion of micronutrients. Your body's happy-go-lucky and, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. I know you just had that bagel, but you gave me some micronutrients too, so I'm happy. Another thing I try and do is have a salad or one meal that's completely a vegetarian-based meal, not necessarily meats. And once I do that, that really infuses the micronutrients. And here's the thing with micronutrients. They help support our body when we're fighting things. Okay, so that's going to help you to just kind of provide a good foundation while you're traveling. Because you're out of your element, you're not sleeping in the same places, so you've got air rolling around that your body's not used to. You're eating foods that you don't normally eat, especially if you're in areas like France, London, Ireland, New York, San Francisco. I mean, each one of those regions has specific foods that are native to those regions and are just amazing. So, but they're not what you would normally eat at home. Those foods are not typically found and available in your hometown, not necessarily unless you're from those areas. So a little bit of juicing goes a long way. If that's not possible, the fresh fruit and veggies will help. So hence the mega salad or the vegetarian meal. If you do a little research before, you can identify where certain cafes are throughout the region that you're in, so that you're not restricted to, okay, I'm on this side of town and I found this wonderful place, but it's all the way on the other side of the city, or it's in another town, and from here it's going to take us an hour to get there, and we're hungry now. So what are we going to do here and now? A lot of the tour companies can help you with this if you're traveling internationally. Nowadays, with Dr. Google, it is fabulous. You go onto the maps, you type in a city or a region that you're visiting, whether it's international or it's domestic, and you say best gluten-free restaurant or best restaurant for dairy-free options. There is, I believe it's called Gluten Free Nation or glutenfree.com. One of the two actually has some options where you just pull up the city and people have gone through and listed comments. Where is good? What is good? There's an app called the Gluten Free app and Healthy Outs. Both of those apps will help you whether you're traveling domestic or international as well. So let's say you've done your research before you go and you get there and the things that you found aren't applicable to the area that you're in. So now you're kind of in a conundrum. What do? You use one of the apps, you ask some of the locals, and keep one thing in mind. And I know some of you are going to say, oh, but that's such a pain in the butt, and I feel like such a PETA, and I don't want to be that problem customer. When you're going out, your service staff and your chefs are happy to help you eat in a way that is enjoyable for you and keeps you healthier. So if you go somewhere, and I know I've said this multitude of times before, but if you go somewhere and they're not okay with changing up your food, even in the slightest, then you need to go somewhere else. 99% of the time, you're not going to have to worry about that, so I wouldn't even consider that. But if you use one of the apps, you use Dr. Google, you can find a lot of options just in the region that you're standing in. So you've got resources available to you, especially if the research you do before you leave isn't applicable. I've done a lot of traveling, so if you need some help, I'm always available to help. And you'll find that there are travel bloggers that when you use Dr. Google, they'll help you figure out where to eat and what the best food is. And, the fresher foods from the little trucks and pit stops along the way in a lot of these international regions they're some of the best food out there. And it's easily converted to a gluten-free, dairy-free dish. Those of you with celiac, you need to be a little bit more specific, and your research before you leave is going to be more vital and critical to your trip. But once you do that research, it takes a load off of your trip so you can just relax and enjoy yourself. Enjoy the culture that you're in, enjoy the communities, enjoy, the sights and the sounds, and just really get into the city or the region that you're in. These tips really will help. Research before anything that you do is always helpful. So what happens if you know that you want to indulge, or you're not sure what's going to happen and you don't know what's out there? Well, there's a couple of things you can do. So I always travel with dairy ease, gluten ease, and charcoal. Okay. And every morning that we were in New York, I had my charcoal pill, I had my gluten ease, and I had my dairy ease. The gluten ease and the dairy ease, and there's several of them, help our body. It gives our body some molecules and some digestive assistance in metabolizing and processing and digesting dairy and gluten allergies, or dairy and gluten molecules. Okay. The charcoal, that you don't necessarily have to have every day. I just knew that there were certain foods that I wanted to have when I was in New York. I didn't know when I was going to run into them. So for me, having a charcoal pill once a day for the 4 days that I was there was ideal. It was perfect. I didn't have to think about it after I left. I knew it was in my system and we were good. So what charcoal does is it binds to molecules that are not digestible. Okay, so if you have an allergy, let's say, so I have a dairy allergy. So for me, it's going to take any dairy molecules that get into my stomach and into my intestines, depending on where the charcoal is in the digestion process. And it's going to bind to them and it's going to carry them out of my system. So there is a minuscule amount of dairy that will get into my body. This is not something that can be used on a daily basis. You cannot use charcoal on a regular basis. It is harmful to your body if it builds up. For a quick 4 to 5 day trip, for like going out and you know that there's a possibility that something could happen, or let's say you've gone and you were accidentally glutened, or you were accidentally dairied or egged or soyed, or whatever your allergy is, you've accidentally consumed it, that's when you use your charcoal pill. It is an emergency use tool. Okay. In addition, so the micronutrients we talked about through the juicing, that provides a solid process for your stomach. It gives your body the nutrients that it needs to help continue running vital functions normally, as though nothing else has changed. Okay. I also brought with me lemon ginger tea and lemon ginseng tea. I have some green tea that I brought, some chai tea. You can get these teas in any restaurant anywhere, but I brought it with me because I know that these are what I drink at home. There's a lemon ginger from Yogi that has some nettle in it. It's got some licorice. It's got really a lot of the digestive supportive herbs. So that's a tea that if I felt a little sluggish, a little tired, or was starting to feel not quite right, I would get some hot water and make myself some tea. Now, keep in mind, it was 100 degrees in New York. So I made myself some tea, and then I got a cup of ice, and I poured it over the ice because there's no way in 100-degree weather I am ever having a hot beverage because, oh my gosh, it's just too much for me. So those are some tips for you just to kind of get you into travel and keep you from not enjoying where you're traveling to because you have to pay so much attention to your food. So put your strategy to work before you leave. So just to kind of summarize everything Here are your tips. First, plan on having lots of micronutrients, whether you do it through juicing or eating fresh fruits and vegetables while you're away. When you're traveling, you want to be careful with some of the local produce just because of the waters that are there. Follow the guidelines. There's holistic guidelines as well as FDA guidelines and parameters for how to pick good fruits and vegetables so that you don't get sick. Montezuma's Revenge is not good for anybody in any country anywhere. So research before you go, have your micronutrients, and have on hand your Dairy Ease, your Gluten Ease, and your charcoal tablets so that you can help your body maintain its health, enjoy your vacation, and not get so caught up in where to eat, what to eat, and how to eat while you're trying to enjoy a simple vacation. Thank you guys for listening. If you have any questions, post it up. I will talk with you all soon. Thank you for listening. Did you love this episode? If so, share this with a friend or someone you think would find it helpful. Leave a review on iTunes, Anchor, Stitcher, or Google Play, and let me know your honest thoughts, questions, and takeaways. Not a fan? I'd still love to hear your feedback. Disagree with anything you've heard? I would love to hear your experience on social media. If you feel like you're still struggling with your health goals, send me a message or check out livingclean.com for details about our nutrition and well-being programs for busy lifestyles. Stop struggling and start enjoying food again. See you next time.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.